Alright, this is 1-3. Notes, this is your solving multi-step equation. So if you got the bonus problem from 1-2 on how to solve for that variable a, then you are a step ahead. Okay, so here is some key vocabulary. Multi-step equation, all this is just an equation with more than one operation. Alright, so then it says, well, what does PEMDAS stand for? Okay, so that's our second question. And these are the operations that you could see in these multi-step equations, but there is an order that you have to do these in. And I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with this from middle school. So just a refresher, P stands for parentheses. Let's see, I'm going to have to zoom in on this. Okay, so P stands for parentheses. E is for exponents. Now, the M and D, see how they are side by side? This stands for multiplication. Well, no, I don't need my M because it's already there. Multiplication. D is for division. And they're side by side because whenever you get to this step, you always want to go left to right. So whatever comes first, going left to right is what you do. And then the last two, A and S, stand for addition and subtraction. Again, going left to right. Alright, so again, you can always pause this, rewind it, anything if I always go too fast. So if you need to rewind this, you're more than welcome to. Alright, so it says solve each equation, check your solution. So here we go, very first one. What I always do is I draw my line right here on the equal sign. That way it helps me stay organized, because that's the biggest key here in algebra, is to keep your work organized so you can follow along with what you're doing. So for this first one, we have 5x plus 3 is equal to 23. We are solving for x. So if I have a plus 3, we want to do the opposite of that and subtract 3. So what you do to one side, you have to do it to the other. Okay, well, a positive 3 and a negative 3, those cancel each other out because that's your zero pair. You don't have to write down the 0, so all I have left over is a 5x. Just brought that right on down, and then 23 minus 3 is just 20. And then the last thing I have to do is I have to get x by itself. So if this is 5 times x, opposite of multiplication is division. We're going to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is just 1, so 1x is equivalent to 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, to check your solution, we can use the calculator, type in 5 times 4 plus 3, and make sure that gives us 23. And it does. Alright, here we go, number 2. So first thing, again, I always put my line on the equal sign. Alright, and now I'm going to go ahead and solve for A. So the first thing I have to do is, and it's the opposite of PEMDAS. So the first thing you want to get rid of is anything that's addition or subtraction. So what do I see? I see this minus 14. Opposite of subtracting 14 is to add 14 to both sides. Again, that's my zero pair. 4 plus 14 is 18. That is equal to 3a. And then again, I want to get that a all by itself. So this is now my multiplication division part of my PEMDAS. So when you're solving equations, you're just going backwards. So this is multiplication division. What's happening right now is this is 3 times a. Opposite of times is, or multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I have 1a is equivalent to 18 divided by 3 is 6. And again, we can do it on calculator, 3 times 6 minus 14, and see if that equals 4. And we will do that in class. Okay, number 3, we have 2y plus 5 equals 19. Draw my line down my equal sign. So if I have, first I'm looking to get my y by itself, so this is the opposite. This is like going backwards in PEMDAS. So the last step in PEMDAS is addition subtraction. So I'm going to look, do I see any addition or subtraction that I have to like reverse? And I do, I have this plus 5. So opposite of that is to subtract 5 from both sides. So we have 2y. Again, this is my 0 pair, just crosses out, and 19 minus 5 is 14. And then I have to divide both sides by 2 to get my y by itself. 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so 1y is equivalent to 7. Because 14 divided by 2 is 7. And again, you can plug that into the calculator, substitute that y equals 7 back in for the y, and make sure it comes out to equal to 19. Alright, number 4. Okay, so again, draw my line on the equal sign. I'm got to get that C all by itself, so we're going to do the opposite of PEMDAS. So we're going to go backwards in PEMDAS. So the last step in PEMDAS is the addition subtraction. So I'm going to look, do I see any addition subtraction? And yes, I have the 6 out here that was added to the 5C. So I got to get rid of this positive 6 by subtracting it. So my 6's, that's a 0 pair, cross out. I have 5 C's left over. And then that is going to be equal to, okay, so when you're adding in, your negatives, you just add them together. So I have negatives. How many total do I have? Well, 29 and 6 will give me a total of 35 negatives. Okay, but I'm not done because I need this to say C is equal to some number. So to do that, again, now we're in the multiplication division part. I have to get that C completely by itself. This is 5 times C. Opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 gives you 1C. Negative 35 divided by 5 gives you negative 7. And again, we can plug that back into the original equation to make sure what is on the left side comes out to be negative 29. Number 5. So again, first step, line on the equal sign. I'm trying to solve for the variable w. So what I got to do is get rid of any addition or subtraction that I see. So I do see here I have this 8. I'm going to have to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract this 8 from both sides. So I have a negative 5w left over is equal to, and again I'm going to add these over here because they are the same sign. So I have these negatives I have to combine. 37 and 8 will give me negative 45. And the last thing I have to do is isolate my variable. So I got to get that w all by itself. It says negative 5 times w, so opposite multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. So w is equal to negative divided by negative is positive. 45 divided by 5 is just 9. So w is equal to 9. Alright, number 6. And again, I'm going to put a line on the equal sign. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 18 because that doesn't have anything to do with my variable, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, that's my 0 pair. I have a negative 4v is equal to 42 minus 18 will give me 24. Right, then I got to get that variable all by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is just 1. So I have 1v is equal to 24 divided by negative 4 will give me negative 6. Alright, now we're dealing with some fractions. So here we go. Number 7. So again, I'm going to draw my line. Okay, I got to get that q all by itself. So the first thing I see here is I was subtracting in 7, so I'm going to add this 7. So that gives me a 0 pair. I have 3/4 q is equal to 8 plus 7 gave me 15. Now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. That's how we're going to get this to be 1 instead of 3/4. So reciprocal means you just flip your fraction. So I'm going to multiply this by 4/3, which means I'm going to multiply this by 4/3. Okay, so my 4's cancel out, the 3's cancel out. I just have a q left over. Okay, if you also need to see this, whenever you're multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across. So I'm going to make a little side note over here in case you don't understand how we can just get 1q. Okay, so side note, whenever you multiply straight across, 4 times 3 here will give me 12. 4 times 3 on the bottom will give me 12. Well, what's 12 divided by 12? It's just 1. So whenever you multiply a fraction in the reciprocal, it just gives you 1. So that's how I'm able to get this 1q right here. Now on the other side, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you how to do this like a shortcut. So I'm going to make my whole number into a fraction. Very easy, just put it over 1. But before we multiply across, I'm going to show you how to simplify this and make it really easy. Okay, you want to look at your diagonals. So I'm going to look here at this diagonal and I'm going to ask myself, is there anything that I can take out? Is there a common factor that both of those have that I can go ahead and like reduce this? And there is. 3 goes into both 3 and 15. So 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So now let's multiply across. 5 times 4 is 20. Well, on the denominator, I just have 1 times 1. What's 20 divided by 1? Just 20. So Q is equal to 20. Alright, and we're going to do a couple problems, so don't worry if you're not getting it just yet. Here we go, number 8. First, draw your line down the equal sign. Second, move whatever you're adding or subtracting. I'm adding a 6 here. Let me go ahead and subtract it to get rid of it. That leaves me with 2/3 G is equal to, again, these are negatives and negatives. So whenever I combine that, that's going to give me a total of negative 18. Okay, so here comes the fun part. I need to get G all by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that's going to be 3/2. And that means over here I get to do 3/2. So anytime you take a fraction, multiply the reciprocal, all this stuff here cancels each other out, and you're left with whatever variable we have. In this case is G. Now, on the other side over here, before I go and start multiplying straight across, because I'm going to get big numbers, I'm going to see how can I reduce this to make it easier on me. So first I'm going to make my 18 into a fraction by putting it over 1. Then I'm going to look at my diagonals, and I'm going to see, is there anything I can reduce? And there is. A 2 can go both into a 2 and the 18. So that's just a 1. And then 2 goes into negative 18, negative 9 times. Well, now let me multiply across. Negative 9 times 3 is negative 27. And on the denominator, 1 times 1 will just give me 1. Well, any whole number divided by 1 is just that whole number. So I have negative 27. All right. Number 9. Okay, so first I'm going to draw my little fence. Keep my work organized. First question you ask yourself is, what do I need to get rid of? That's either doing the little simple addition or subtraction. Well, I have a minus 8 here. I'm going to go ahead and add 8 to both sides. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, this is my 0 pair. So I have 5/2z is equal to, now on this other side, I always ask myself, who has more points, the negatives or the positives? Positives have more points because there's 8 of them, and they are up by 5. So that's a positive 5. The last thing that I need to do is get z by itself, and that's going to be by multiplying by my reciprocal. So 2/5. 2/5. Okay, and again, here's the great thing. Multiplying a fraction by the reciprocal, it all cancels out and just gives you one variable. And then on this other side, when I make this into a fraction, I have 5/1. I look at my diagonals. Is there anything I can reduce to make this simpler? And there is. These 5s actually cancel each other out because 5 goes into 5 one time. So both of these become 1s. So now when I multiply straight across, 1 times 2 is 2. And then on the bottom, I just have 1 times 1 is 1. And again, anything divided by 1 is just that whole number, so z is equal to 2. And you can always check by plugging this back into the calculator. All right, we got 3 more. So number 10, again, I'm going to draw my line on the equal sign. First, I have this plus 2. I have to get rid of by subtracting 2. So I have 4/5 m is equal to 6 minus 2 is 4. And again, I'm going to multiply by my reciprocal, 5/4. Multiply this by 5/4. So anytime you multiply by the reciprocal and the normal fraction, it cancels each other out to give you 1. So 1m is equal to, over here on the other side, I can make this into a fraction. And then I notice that my 4's will cancel each other out. So this will just be 5/1, which is just 5. Alright, number 11. Now when you get to problems like this is a little bit different. First, draw your line. Now what this says is, okay, I have c minus 5. I have the difference of c and 5. All of that's being divided by 4. Well, before I can do anything with that minus part up top, you have to get rid of this divided by 4. So to do that, we're going to multiply this side by 4, and we're going to multiply this side by 4. Wonderful thing, these 4's cancel each other out. So all you have left over is c minus 5. On the right side, 3 times 4 is 12. And then you have a really simple one-step problem. Add 5 to both sides to get C by itself. C will just be equal to 17. So these problems are actually easier, I think, than the previous 4. Alright, and last one like this. So again, you have b plus 1 divided by 3 is equal to 2. I drew my line. I see all of that stuff is divided by 3, so instead of, I gotta get rid of that dividing by 3, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna multiply both sides by 3. And again, those cancel each other out. B plus 1 is equal to 2 times 3 is 6. And again, this will be really nice. All you gotta do is subtract 1 from both sides. So B is equal to 5. Alright, and now we have a couple word problems and then we're done. Here we go, first one. If 7m minus 3 is equal to 53, what is the value of 11m plus 2? Well, first I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve this first equation for m. I'm going to add my 3 to both sides because I got to solve for that 7m. So 7m is equal to 56. I'm going to divide both sides by 7 to get m by itself, and m will actually end up being 8. Well, it's asking what's the value of 11m plus 2. So what I have to do is I got to bring this lovely little 8 over here and plug it in for that m. So what I get over here is 11 times m is equivalent to 8 plus 2. 11 times 8 is 88 plus 2, that will give me 90. So the value of 11m plus 2 will be 90. Alright, number 2. A tablet data provider offers different plans for data usage. The plan Paul will choose has a monthly fee of $29.99 per month for 5 gigabytes of data with an additional cost of $10 for each gigabyte over 5. A. Write an expression for Raul's monthly data cost, and B. Raul learns that his data provider is offering an unlimited data plan for $59.99 per month. Find the minimum number of gigabytes Raul could use per month to make the unlimited plan cheaper than his current plan. Explain your solution process. Alright, so let's go ahead and start back with A. Write an expression, so that means there's going to be no equal sign for this guy's monthly data cost. So every month he has to pay, it tells you right here, he has to pay $29.99 per month. And that gives him his 5 gigabytes. Okay, so no matter what, you have to pay $29.99 per month. Okay, and you got to pay $10 every time you go over those 5 gigabytes. So X is going to represent how many gigabytes he goes through in a year. And I'm going to take away 5 because he gets 5 of those for free. So there's your expression. Now, the second part, it says that he learns that his data provider is offering an unlimited data plan for $59.99. Now we're going to find the minimum number of gigabytes he could use per month to make the unlimited plan cheaper than his current plan. So explain your solution. So what we got to see is we're going to set this $59.99. We're going to set that equal to what he currently pays. Well, what he currently pays is $29.99 plus $10 every time he goes over those 5 gigabytes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for X. Okay, because when I solve for X, when I set this equal to almost $60 per month, that tells me how many gigabytes he could use to not go over that $60 a month. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line right here on the equal sign. And I'm going to go ahead and distribute my 10. So the first thing you got to do is get rid of those parentheses. So we have $59.99 is equal to $29.99. And when I distribute this 10, I get 10x minus 50. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So what I see that I have I can combine is $29.99 and this negative 50. So I still have $59.99. I still have my 10x, but now when I combine those two, $29.99 minus 50, that'll give me $20.01. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that $20.01 to the other side. and that will give me a total of $80 is equal to 10x. Last thing I have to do is divide both sides by 10 to get x by itself, so x is equal to 8. So what this means, okay, in terms of the gigabytes, is he can use 8 gigabytes or less. If he goes over any more than that, then he is spending more money than switching this plan for unlimited data, which in this case it would be good just to have unlimited data for $60 a month. Alright, which of the following is equivalent to 3x minus 4 divided by 4 is equal to 5x plus 2? This is a bonus question. These are the questions you'll see on your test that are more or less like the commended questions. So here we go. First thing you have to do is draw your line on the equal sign. On the left side, you've got to get rid of the 4 in the denominator. So you want to multiply both sides by that 4. Those 4's cancel each other out. You have 3x minus 4 is equal to, I'm going to distribute this 4 to everything inside. 5x times 4 gives me 20x, and 4 times 2 will give me 8. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to have my variable on the same side. So in this case, I am actually going to move, well, let me look at my answer choices. See my answer choices over here? They have the x on the left-hand side. If I decided to solve for x, I'd move the 3x. But because they have my x on the left-hand side, I'm going to move my x to be on the left-hand side. So I'm going to subtract 20x from both sides. Okay, that's a 0 pair. Over here on the left side, 3x minus 20x. I have more negatives because there's 20 of them. They're winning by 17 points. I still have a minus 4, and that's equal to 8. The only other thing I have to do to find which one's equivalent to my answer choice is I have to add 4 to both sides. I still have a negative 17x, and 8 plus 4 is equal to 12. Now when I look at my answer choices over here, I have one of those, shoop, that's equivalent. And that says negative 17x is equal to 12. So you're not solving all the way for x, it was just asking which of these equations is equivalent to the original equation, and that would be D. Alright, so that is it for the 1-3 notes.